Okay, this is the last video for today. I had all these little ones that I really had to get it off my mind. There are more crazy things like this, but I chose these several for today. This one blows my mind whole again. Kinson clearly has no idea what goes on in a gym, but in his mind, I don't know if he's ever been in a gym, but clearly in his mind, a mirror is equated with somebody loving themselves or wanting to get a peek at, if they're a man, women. I assume the converse is true, that women go to the gym to see men in the mirror. I mean, this makes absolutely no sense, especially in a place like Okinawa, where I was there when the first Servicemen's home was opened. I came there several times, actually, because the Servicemen's home in the Philippines was closed down when 2 Americans had been killed outside of the gate. And so we were invited to take a hop up there. And so I know the deal outside of the gate there. A Marine is probably not going to the gym to see other women. I don't know if the gym, he leaves out details. Is this a gym on a military base? He said down to the gym. Is it in a basement somewhere? Down the road? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. For those of us who have worked out in gyms, either in the military or outside of the military, I know my daughter goes all the time. She's a combat medic in the Army. And the thing, and I've taught classes before for strength training and for stretching. And the thing is, people get hurt because their form is really wrong. And so the reason why there's mirrors in there, and they're not like on the ceiling, there isn't like a heart-shaped bed, but in Kinson's mind, he's projecting, I guess, that's all I can guess, is that he would do that if he were in the gym. Or maybe he heard someone say, but why do you need a mirror to see someone else? If you can just look over at them, they can see you in the mirror looking at them. So he's fetching here. And the thing is, the clue in this whole thing is he said they were there all the time. And something else we're going to cover when I do a post tomorrow about servicemen's homes is many of us have the same testimony. Many people who have gotten out of NTCC and were reached in servicemen's homes have similar stories of how the servicemen's director tried to get them to get out of their duties. Because, you know, the military workday doesn't always end. It's not a 9-to-5 thing. You could learn of a GI party or something you have to do for an inspection or some upcoming deployment or training. Or maybe you have to do some training on a computer. But clearly this man is, if not now, he surely was then, but he still must be now out of touch because he's still telling the story about being in Okinawa and these Marines going to the gym all the time. Are there not people who are obsessed with building up their bodies? Yes. But to bring it to a level where it's a lust thing and you're on the market, like you're at the gym to find somebody, is so gross. I'm trying not to use the word disgusting again, but it is kind of. It's so out of touch that, I mean, I don't know, has the guy ever been to a gym? Does he know what you're doing there? Did he say to them, hey, can I go with you and learn how to lift weights and how to get some proper form? As we get older, it's so important to strength train for our bones' sake, because older people tend to fall, and when they fall, they break bones. And sometimes when they're much older, they break bones, they go to the hospital, they get pneumonia, and they die. So it's like the earlier the better for strength training. And our Marines and our soldiers, I was an airman, so can't say we had big physical duties, but there are those that do within that realm, sailors. But I'll focus right now, since he's talking on the Marines. When I was over in Okinawa, any Marine that wants to look at women, they're everywhere. They come in from the Philippines. They go into the bars or roaming around the streets. You don't have to go to the gym to a mirror in a corner somewhere. My daughter was telling me, I had her listen to this. Can you believe this guy is so whacked out of touch? And she was saying how when they go on deployments or they go out in the field, if they're there for a time, there is like a little tent thing they'll set up with something on the ground, and they will put up a little mirror for when they do their lifting, because especially the heavier the weights, you have to have the right form or you will hurt yourself badly. So for him to tell this, it almost sounds convoluted, but I can see people, especially he's talking here about a father-in-law asking his son-in-law, "Oh, aren't you off the market? Aren't you married?" It's like, how does that have anything to do with going to the gym with a mirror? Do you know your son-in-law can see women anywhere, like on the whole earth if he wants? He can go online. I mean, the gym. Have you been to a gym? Have you seen the people in a gym? Now, the military's depending on where this gym was, but if he's in Okinawa, a Marine, if the Marine has an inclination, if anybody has an inclination to see someone, but it seems really like somebody projecting maybe what they would do to get a little look or something. I have no idea, to have a little fantasy. But here's the thing that's so deeply disturbing is that I don't recall hearing any stories of how Reverend Johnson pulled Kinson aside to say, "Hey, Phil, my boy, you want to..." He didn't dissuade him from marrying his young daughter. And I won't even tell you the age. I will say this. Go ask Phil Kinson, or go ask his wife how old she was when they got married. Go ahead. I have a granddaughter who's 12 right now and will be 13. And I can't imagine in the next few years her being married. But go ahead and ask. So maybe that's an issue he has with, I don't know. Just go ask him. I dare you to ask him. Nobody's going to ask him anything if they're in the church. But if you're a service member and you've been invited to this group, I want you to hear the story about how he views the gym with a mirror. You can't make this stuff up. I don't have to make one thing up. I just have to let you hear what they say and give you a little bit of context, because maybe you're someone who's not been to the gym and you think this too. Maybe you've heard it in NTCC before. But our soldiers and Marines have to keep up a certain high level. Have you ever been on a ruck march? Have you ever seen how much they have to carry? There was a time where my daughter went, and she brought my granddaughter with her to do a run, actually, on the beach here. And she started putting all the stuff on us, so I was able to feel what was on her flak vest and all the medical stuff she had to have, and her helmet and everything. And if you think you're just going to do that by sitting around in a serviceman's home and eating the food and then sitting around for Bible study, you've got another thing coming. And to put burdens on these soldiers and to say, like I was told, there was a deployment that we had when we were over in the Philippines, and I didn't get really to choose, but there were two to choose from. One was Team Spirit in South Korea. This was in 1989. And actually, so Team Spirit was before that. And then the other deployment choice was Chiang Mai, Thailand for 2 months. But I think Team Spirit was shorter. And so when the servicemen's director and his wife found out that, this is what I had to do there, can't you try to get out of it? And it was kind of a nagging me about it. No, you can't get out of it. I have a choice of one or the other, and I'm the low man. I have a supervisor who's a master sergeant at the time, and my coworker was he used to be a flight engineer on our helicopters, but he didn't pass the Dunker test, so he was in my job, which was in support of aircrew training, computers and things like that, reports, just, a lot of, when you're overseas, you do a lot of things outside of your job. And so that's something that I think servicemen's directors don't understand, even if they've been in the military. It could be, I think Kinson was a cook in the Air Force, if I recall correctly. So, and I don't even know how long he stayed in. But he clearly has a convoluted view of all of it. But so I wasn't able to choose, and the two guys didn't want to go on deployment for long because they had families. So they both chose South Korea, plus they wanted to go shopping there for their wives. They both had a Filipino wife, and so that was that. I'm super glad. Thailand was an amazing experience. I got to travel all over and go up to the Golden Triangle near Laos and what was then Burma and now Myanmar. And it was an incredible time. Got to meet the prince of the country, and he had uniforms made for us and all these neat experiences. But I don't get to choose. Yeah, I'm not here on some job where I can say, hey, boss, can I have the afternoon off? My serviceman's director wants me to be there for a meal and stay for Bible study. There is a lot to do if you're in the military. And there are people that will try to get out of work, but there's a lot of people that don't. And they're devoted to duty. And part of that duty means keeping yourself strong and able for when they're called upon to do some of the dumb crap that they're asked to do by our government. So get off their case. Stop telling these boo-hoo stories about how you didn't get your money out of this guy to make up for the meal you gave him. It's so gross. You either care about them or you don't. There should be no expectation. That's what's going to speak to their hearts, is when you just welcome them and love them and care about them and give them a meal. And if they want to go, okay, well, hopefully we'll see you again. No, they're telling each other these boo-hoo stories, and then he's relating it over the pulpit to who? Who's sitting there listening to that? Students? Are they going to go out now and do the same thing and be as awful? This is the legacy of this organization. So somebody needs to clue this dude in, but he just has a lot of nerve, as always. And I just want somebody to either call him out or somebody to wake up and say, I'm just so sick of this. And I hope you will. It's a process, I know. You don't just listen to something I've said and say, oh, I'm going to get out. But I can at least hopefully appeal to those who are in the military and newly reached or have just been invited. And I keep getting messages from family members who, are so glad to know this information and know the other side of things, so they know how to maybe carefully work around encouraging their family members not to continue going there. So thank you again for listening. I'm done tonight. I'm going to go work out.
I'm thankful for the day that I got saved and I was no longer in the market. I remember years ago a young man coming to the church, and it was in Okinawa many years ago, and he said that, and at that time there were a lot of Marines in church, and they would go down to the weight room like all the time. And I used to call it the temple of temple worship. Why all the mirrors? Well, I'm not watching me, I'm watching her through two of them. Oh, the temple worship. The temple of temple worship. This body is a temple. Say, preacher, no. I said, well, then why all the mirrors? I understand. We're still there.
Unbelievable.
And she's watching you. Well, maybe someone else. But a man was telling me, he said, I got married and I was over visiting my father-in-law, and my father-in-law had been retired military, and he said, I was talking, he was saying, you're going down to the weight room all the time. He goes, yes. He said, why? He said, well, I want to look good. He said, why? Well, and you just want to look good and be strong, and this is the father-in-law. Protecting his daughter's relationship. He said, why? And he looked at him, and things got real honest for a moment. He said, didn't you get married? Yes. Aren't you out of the market? And that was sinners talking to each other.
So now
I said, look at that dad. Being a dad to this boy who didn't have one. And he said, I stopped going right then and there. I realized I'm out of the market.